call it, results here. Kind of go through. I'll give my thoughts on what I saw in the racing, and hopefully you guys can comment down below with your thoughts. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, and trust me, I got some hot takes this week. So we're going to jump right into the 450 results. 450 race recap brought to you by our friends at Gutterworks. Always well hung, just like Justin Barcia. And I'm not sure if we're going to see Justin Barcia the rest of the year, so maybe for the SMX rounds, who knows. All right, so let's start right out here. So Jet goes 1-1 again, and he doesn't go 1-1 without being challenged this week. Chase actually showed up to play this week, which was pretty cool to see, especially in that first moto. Second moto, we'll get to that. But in the first moto, he hung right there with Jet for a long time. And there was a lot of times that normally in these races, I have not thought that Jet was actually pushing. This was one of the few races that there were points that I was like, oh man, he's pushing. Things are getting a little sketchy. But at no point either was I really worried. It's probably the most worried I've been all year, outside of maybe that second Paula moto. But as far as anything beyond that, even since Chase has come back at Redbud, I haven't been really this worried about anybody even being close to Jet. I still think that there was more there. Now, whether he goes to that next level because of the points lead he has at this time, that's something I don't know if we'll see. Like, if Chase does yank a start and actually start to run away from him, I don't think we see Jet push it because I just don't think he cares that much about the 24 or 22-0, whatever. I don't think he cares about the perfect season as much as he does winning the championship. You don't get paid extra for a perfect season. You get paid extra for winning the title. So I thought he rode that race beautifully, both motos. Like I said, the first one, he was way more challenged than the second one. The second one, it was funny though. You watch that start, that overhead view they have of the start of the second moto, and Chase definitely got him, and Jet was pushing, trying to get around him quickly. Now, as far as Chase goes 2-2, and this is very similar to what we saw last year with Eli and Chase. The fact that those two just basically run away from everyone else. I mean, both motos, they were over 40 seconds ahead of third place, which is just ridiculous. Because Dylan's definitely no slouch, but like they were just head and shoulders better and ran away from him so fast. It was absolutely ridiculous. Now, Chase Sexton here, Jet's the same thing, race after race after race, okay? Chase was the same Chase, different day. Even though he's won that 450 Supercross title, and you thought, okay, outdoors he had his little issues, he'll be better this year. He wasn't. He did the same thing yesterday. He hit the ground a whole bunch of different times for a whole bunch of different reasons. I mean, dude, he spun out in a corner in that second moto and let Jet get by him. He pushed the front end. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are we still making these mistakes? And I know at this point, he's over there saying it's not me, it's the bike. And I just don't know. Like, we'll see, but I'm here to tell you, if he jumps on that KTM next year and makes the same mistakes, which is pushing the front and everything, it's not a good look. Then you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, this is a technique issue. Stu has kind of touched on this, where he thinks he rides way too far over the front of that bike. And he thinks it's technique-wise. He doesn't think it has anything to do with the bike. He thinks he's too much of a front wheel guy. He needs to neutral out a little bit more, which Stu has pointed out is the way Jet rides. Jet rides very, very neutral on the bike, which is why you don't see Jet spin out. You don't see Jet push the front. So it was great to actually have somewhat of a battle and something somewhat interesting yesterday with those two kind of battling. But outside of that, we had the same thing we've had. The 450 class was just boring. You had Dylan goes 5-3 for third. That second moto, he was just battling and battling and battling with AP there towards the end to get that third. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for that. I mean, I've watched all the motos, and there just wasn't. They were covering Jet and Chase and trying to see if Chase could close it down. Chase was super fast, but like this is one of those times where it's like it sucks being here because I don't have anything I'm watching on TV because there isn't anything to talk about or not a whole lot outside of what we saw on TV, which was Jet and Chase. And I mean, like I said, Chase was fast. Jet had to work for it. Part of Jet having to work for, I think, that first Moto 2, though, by the way, and I'm sorry, I kind of glossed over this, was he was running the paddle tire so he could get the start, and it was costing him a lot on the rest of the track. It was helping him in the sand rollers. It helped him on the start. The rest of the track, it was garbage. So I think that second Moto, what you saw was him change that rear tire, and that is what cost him on the start. But obviously still not that bad. And then that helped him, though, the rest of the race, which, again, he put 10 seconds on Chase that second Moto. Because when Chase got up after he had crashed, he was only 10 seconds behind. But Chase didn't put any time on him. And I don't know if that is a conditioning thing as to why Chase couldn't reel him back in because he blew his load that first Moto. Because that first Moto, he moved. He moved a lot. So, all right. So AP goes 4-4 for fourth. And, you know, back issues combined with his the suspension thing that's going on, or they won't let him test and do his own suspension thing, or however that's working there, is what's causing him to be where he is. Although I just think it's somewhat to the cream rising to the top. I mean, you've got Chase Sexton, who, let's face it, AP's just not on that level. Sorry, he's not. You've got Jet, again, he's not on that level. And you've got Dylan, who's a 2021 outdoor champion. So it's like Aaron battling with him is a thing. But I just don't see Aaron beating him. So anyway, I mean, I think this is where Aaron slots in here, is pretty much the fourth place guy here at this point. AC goes 7-5 for fifth. Again, arm issues, can't hold on. Makes it really, really tough. I really hope he gets that figured out in the offseason here. Ty Masterpool goes 8-6 for sixth. And this is what happens with Ty Masterpool, is he has a few really, really good races, and everybody starts screaming factory ride and everything, and then it just kind of levels out. So we'll see if he builds any more going through the rest of the year and gets up there battling towards that, you know, in the top 5, battling for a podium type deal. But I mean, you look at the guys who beat him, and it's like, which ones do you expect him to beat? I don't expect him to beat any of those 5 guys ahead of him. He might get AC, or if they have a bike problem or something, but that's pretty much it. Marchbanks goes 6-8 for seventh. And this is just where he slots in, and I really hope he makes it into the SMX stuff, which I think he will, because he's beaten Phil by quite a bit here. So I think he'll make it into the SMX stuff. Now, whether he's going to be in the top 20, so he doesn't have to go through the LCQ or not, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But the 450 thing's working a lot better for him. Grant Harlan bounced back for a 9-7 ride for 8th overall. That's really good for Grant there. Again, out of the guys who finished ahead of him, I don't expect him to beat any of those guys. I mean, him and Ty could battle, and I guess him and Garrett are on the same level this year. So, okay, cool. That's a thing, but that's pretty much it. That 6 to 8, 6 to 9 range. I see him in there. Freddie Noren, same thing, goes 10-9 for 9th, so that happens. Jason Anderson showed up to play that first moto, which was super interesting. Ended up going 3 DNF for 10th. Had a big one. Second moto, ended up running over Henry Miller's bike in the sand rollers in the first lap there and not finishing. But, man, he showed up to play that first moto, and he looked good, but just... This is Ando's outdoor luck, and combined with the fact that he doesn't want to be there and probably doesn't even want to ride outdoors. I mean, I think the fact that he got in the box was pretty cool, and especially compared to last week's major issues and how Redbud didn't go great. This, I would say, was a good ride. Jose Butron goes 15-10 for 11th. That's another good ride for him. Chiz shows up to race and goes 14-11 for 12, so... okay, that's fine. Phil goes 13-12 for 13. I assume he's not happy with that. I think Phil expects, especially at this point now that he's a few races deep, to be up more towards that top 10 range. I don't think he's real pumped on that 13th here. I'm sure we'll hear about it on Pulp here, especially if he's not pumped. But that's just kind of where I see him. Real good ride for Luca Marcellisi, 16-14 for 14th, so that's good. Shane McElrath goes out, buys his first ever dirt bike at the ripe young age of whatever he is, 28 or whatever. Goes 11 DNF for 15th. I'm not sure what happened to him, but that first moto was good for a guy who hasn't really raced much outdoors here over the last couple of years, to buy a bone stock bike, and from what I understand, a bone stock bike, and show up and get 11th that first moto. That was really, really good for Shane. I'll be interested to hear this week what happened to him that second moto, because I don't really know. But you know, he could. This is what the SMX stuff is doing. It's making these guys come back to try to get points. So this is working in the way they intended it to work, which is great. Henry Miller goes 12 DNF. Again, he crashed in those sand rollers, had a pretty gnarly get off there. And then, of course, like I said, Ando ran over his bike, so whatever. Jerry Robin, fucked my fantasy the first moto, and then the second moto was really good. He goes 34-13 for 17th. Jerry probably did Jerry things that first moto. Who knows? Anton Goal from Sweden goes 17-17 for 18th. Romain Pope goes 40-15 for 19th. And Jeremy Hand goes 18-18 for 20th. Let's see here. Honorable mentions. Kevin Morans goes 26-16 for 21st. So he at least got some points, so that's good. Outside of that, Prebula on his 350 goes 24-32 for 32nd, so that's cool. Jeff Walker goes 29-37 for 35th. And that's pretty much it. I wonder what happened to Lorenzo Lacrucio. 37 DNS. Interesting. All right. Yeah, so that's basically it there. Like I said, this is the first race we've really had to see, outside that second moto at Paula, that we've really had to see Jet work for it here. So it made it slightly interesting throughout the day, but again, too, kind of boring because all we got to see on TV essentially was him and Chase, and could Chase run him down. So like I said, I think the next two are the big challenges for him. Washougal and Unadilla there are the big challenges for him moving forward, because that's going to be where he struggles the most. He doesn't like Washougal. He does okay there, but he doesn't like it. And Unadilla last year was a complete shit show for him. So it'll be interesting to see how these next 2 weeks go. If anywhere is going to break the streak, it's the next two. Once we get back to Buds and we do Buds and then Ironman, he's fine at those places. But these two, I don't know. And it'll be interesting to see if he puts enough points between him and Dylan here to win this, to wrap the title at. He could wrap the title at Unadilla, to be honest with you. I think he was 81 points ahead, and we only got to get to 100, and he doesn't even have to race the last four motos there. So I don't know. We'll see. That's been your 450 race recap, brought to you by our friends at Gutterworks. Make sure to check them out. Link in the description down below. Holster Co. Reload Rant.